Real financial planning is aligning your use of capital with your values. The word aligning, or to align, is itself a verb, an action, and thus an episode about aligning your capital with your values would be incomplete without an action episode to accompany it. So here are your actions for this episode. Before aligning our capital with our values, we need to know what our values are. So action item number 1 is to sit down with your spouse, if you have one, and write down, actually physically write down, what are some of your top values. We'll have many values, many things that we value, of course, and there are a whole host of things we could value that would all be positive. I'm not saying that everything you could value would be positive, but there are many to choose from. But I want you to find out, what are your top values? What are the things that you value the most? Take a tip from Anthony Schmidt from our episode last week around meeting with your spouse, if you have one, to figure out what are not only your goals and what you want, but also your values. And step 1 is to write out those values. Action item number 2 is to determine whether your use of capital aligns with those values. Unless you take accurate time tracking measurements, it may be hard to determine how much of your time you're allocating towards those things. But you could take a moment to reflect on your time and energy use. The other one you'll want to look at is, does your use of your capital of money, does that align with your values? And the best way to do that is to know where your money goes. We know where it's coming from, and you should probably know without thinking too hard about how much is coming in. But do you know how much is going out? There are, of course, a couple of ways to do this. We covered this back in episode 25 on cash flow, but probably the best way to do it is to use a software such as YNAB, or You Need a Budget, to track your spending. I have used YNAB for years and years, and it is a great way to track your spending and allocate your future spending. After using it for a month or so, you'll be able to see whether or not your use of money aligns with your values by looking at all of your transactions, where all your money goes. And then from there, you can better align it by making a plan of where you're going to spend your money in the future. And software like YNAB will help you do it. You can find a link in the description to start a free trial of YNAB. I don't have any affiliation with them, but of course if you use the link, I'll get a free month as well. So that's trying to make that use of that software free for me forever by having enough people sign up for it. And if you don't, you can just go straight to YNAB if you want. Either way, you can get a free month. I would highly recommend doing that. It's a great way to, again, not only determine if your use of money aligns with your values, but then to start planning to get it there. And the last action item is to take the Financial Planning Score quiz. If you have not yet, go to retirementmentorship.com, scroll down just a tad, and there'll be a button there where you can find out what your overall financial planning score is. If we're trying to use financial planning to help align our use of money with our values, then knowing what our overall score is a great way to find out where we're starting. From there, you can start to build your financial plan to work and to improve it, and to use your financial planning to give yourself a more meaningful life, a life where your use of money and other capital aligns with your values. Action item number 1, determine and write down your top values. Action item number 2, determine whether or not your use of money aligns with those values by tracking your spending using YNAB or a similar software. And action item number 3, figure out your financial planning score by taking the financial planning score quiz at retirementship.com. There'll be links for these 2 things in the description, and we'll see you on Monday.